Hey everyone, this is Ashwin and welcome to the sixth installment of the Core Java series. Today we will be taking a look at expressions, statements, and blocks. So let's get started with that. So the first thing we're going to have a look at is expressions. Now, whenever someone says expression, the way you can think about it is that as a general rule of thumb, anything that returns some sort of value is an expression. And that includes the null value as well. So expressions normally consist of variables, operators, and method invocations. And you can see what this means. So if you can see the bolded out bits in the examples, let's move back. Yeah, so you can see that the count here, because count will always return some sort of value, and generally whatever value is assigned to it will be returned by count. So that there is an expression. So int count equals 5. That's an expression. The same way when you say if, for example, if a equals b, then do something. And here these are the double slash means comments, which means they don't really count and they're ignored by the Java compiler. What this means is here a equals b, which suggests that a needs to have, this is an equality check. That bit there, a equals b, is an expression. And similarly, anything that evaluates to anything any other sort of value, like a plus b divided by 2. So let's say a is 5, b is 5, divided by 2 gives 5. So because it gives some sort of single value, then therefore a plus b divided by 2 is also an expression. Now, if you take method invocations, normally I haven't taken you guys to method invocations yet, but even method invocations, the whole idea is that they generate some sort of values for you. And because of that, even method invocations are expressions. So now we'll move on because there's not too much that I can show you by coding these things. So we'll move on now to statements. Now, there are a couple type of statements. So the first is expression statements. So the ones that are involved in that are assignment expressions. So when we say a equals 2 or b equals the character c or something like that. Any unary operation, which means, as we saw in the previous tutorial, a plus plus, a minus minus, all these kind of increments or decrements, or any unary operation is an expression, is an expression statement. Similarly, as we've seen before, expressions, method invocations are expressions, so they're also expression statements. And the last is object creation. We haven't gotten to this part yet, but think about it like when we say primitives, when we create primitives and we say int a, the same way for objects we can create our own object called bike, as you've seen in the previous slides when we were discussing objects versus classes. And then we can call that bike my bike. And that is an object creation expression. So that is also a statement. The next kind of statements are declarative statements. So when you're saying int a equals 2, so there you're also declaring and instantiating. So that's a declarative statement where you're saying that a is an integer that holds the value 2. And then come the control flow statements. So we'll have a look at these in more detail later on. But for now, all you have to know is things like, if and else sort of statements and for loops, if you've heard of that, something that loops through particular values. And there's another one called branching statements. So those are the 3 control flow statements. Those we're going to have a look at in the next tutorial. But for now, that was statements. And the last is blocks. Now, if you look at the code, so let's switch back to Eclipse. And well, actually quickly, first thing here, this is explained by Oracle, and I think that the definition of a block, they put it really nicely. So a block is a group of 0 or more statements between balance braces, which are these curly braces, and can be used anywhere a single statement is allowed. So I'll explain what this means now, but you can have a look at this example. So if this year equals a new year, open braces, which means that anything inside will be run when this year equals new year. So this should be actually this year equals new year. So there's that mistake there. But then my age plus plus, my calendar equals new calendar, my knowledge level equals set whatever. All these things will happen when this year equals new year. But the same way I could have said something like this. So let's move back to Eclipse and we'll create, we'll just write it in one line here. So you can see that these are blocks, like for example the main method. So main method, this is a method, and there's a block there, and the start of the curly braces and ending curly brace there. So this entire block, so whenever main method is called, everything inside is run, right? The same way, let's say if we say, for example, if a equals b, so don't worry about if this is a control statement. I could say if a equals b, then print a equals b, something like that. So I could do a nice little, so I could say a equals b, right? So that is, so it doesn't know what b is, so it's giving a little error. But had we b, so I'll just say int b equals 2. So this statement now is valid, right? But let's say we wanted to do some more things, maybe not just print but also increment b. If we wanted to do that, increment meaning adding one more to b. So then we can't, because this semicolon ends the line. There's no way to do the next statement, to run the next statement within the if loop if we do it again. So we'll have to write the whole thing again. Then again, if a equals b. And see, that's a waste of time, and it's also not dry. Dry meaning don't repeat yourself. So the whole idea of programming is that you don't repeat yourself. So what we can do is we can put it in a block. So now we can put as many things in there that will run when the block is run, when the condition inside the block is satisfied, basically. Okay, so that's blocks for you. And that actually is the end of our tutorial. After this, we will be looking at, so this was just mostly theory, but after this we will be looking at control flow statements, and that might be, I will divide that into further 3 tutorials where one covers the conditionals, if or else and all that. The second will be the one that that discusses looping, so the looping control flow statements, and the last one will be branching. So we'll have a look at those in the next couple tutorials. But for now, this will be all. This is Ashwin signing off.